Pad, 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 pad. I'm Pad. We're going to be talking about Pad, Process Automation Designer. How many people's actually used that? Not too sure. I'm not too sure it's a popular feature or capability. Maybe underused. Maybe you will now though, because in Vancouver there's some lovely updates. And I'm here to show you them. So let's have a look. First of all, at the content calendar that has been out for a few weeks now. If you watch some of the Tech Now webinars and videos, and maybe you've seen these things come out, but yes, the great Lauren McManaman has come out with a lovely blog in terms of what is new in Process Automation Designer. Now, I must admit, Pad is not. I can't keep calling it Pad. Process Automation Designer is Pad. Just doesn't sound right, does it? Process Automation Designer is not something that I've implemented that often. I think I've only done it once, maybe in the past, maybe a couple of years ago. Obviously, it's got very close tie-in to the likes of playbooks. That's essentially the point of them, I believe, really, is for the playbooks within Workspaces. And I guess the bigger question is, how much is Workspaces used? You know, some still prefers, the old style sort of look and feel, the lists and UI 16. But, this is the way things are going. And playbooks do offer some interesting functionality. So let me just tell you a little bit about, for those who don't know, what Pad is. So what ServiceNow say what Pad is. And I'm just going to go to a different screen here, because we're going to come across some of Lauren's updates in here in a minute. So Pad is now a store app, by the way. So it used to be something that was as part of the kind of family releases, and you would maybe see updates every 6 months or so, but now it's been moved to the store, so they can push out more and more updates. But yeah, the purpose behind Pad, as you can see on the screen there, is it's to do with building business processes without code. And as you know, I'm very much a fan of low code, no code, getting everybody involved. So we're going to be putting that to the test. And there's some interesting, sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. There's some really interesting functionality that will help towards this being available to the likes of our citizen developers and perhaps process owners. So we will see how non-codey it is, and put it to the test, as I say. One thing is, because this is in the store, you're going to struggle to get this onto your PDIs. I do have a non-PDI style instance in Vancouver, and I have, of course, got the app and then all the necessary upgrades for this to apply to my instance, so I can show you. So yeah, those trying to get this on a PDI, I've been there, I've tried to do it for an hour, I wasn't able to. I've been able to do the update through the store and onto a non-PDI instance. So yes, so it's all about building business processes without code. And so interesting things down here in this kind of summary kind of maybe gives you a bit more clue here. So Process Automation Designer offers a no-code experience for building automated business processes. Build processes in a diagrammic, which they didn't have before, by the way. This is new in Vancouver. Or visual task style view. So they've got kind of like a Kanban board style, which those who used Process Automation Designer before would be used to. So if you have used it in the past, then yeah, you probably have seen the board view, but there's a few updates for you to look at. So yes, it's all about building these processes. The way I see it is it's very useful for the likes of triaging. So if you think from the likes of an incident perspective or change or something else, where you need to include a list of steps or a process that individuals need to follow. Maybe they're brand new to the business or brand new users, and maybe they've gone through some form of training, but to give them that little extra hand in terms of what they need to do to fix things quicker or follow a prescribed process, then you can define these playbooks. So these playbooks, just in exactly the same way, it's a very American word, isn't it? Playbook. You can imagine these guys in the NFL, they've got these kind of playbooks of different positions or whatever they call it. The different 24, 17, hut, that sort of thing. Essentially the same thing. You've got different playbooks, you've got different steps to follow to get from end to end in the process. That's where I've seen the most of its value. I'm sure there's more to it, perhaps. But essentially, yes, it works very much hand in hand with Workspaces. So we're going to be creating a brand new process in the Process Automation Designer and judging it against whether it's something that we feel that can be done by process owners as opposed to like sort of admins, platform admins, because I'm sure there's other ways of achieving this sort of thing, such as, there's checklists, there's things like, obviously you can do stages through Flow Designer now, workflow, not legacy workflow. So there's multiple different ways you can achieve a process. This is a nice visual way, I guess, of engaging those who are more low-code, no-codey. So, yes, let's get into the instance and see what the situation is, shall we? Right, so before I go into here, let's just show you the instance, and what I may do is just zoom in a touch because this is a little bit zoomed out. So yes, this was me just kind of checking the different plugins to make sure it was all up to date. I think the latest version was 24.12, something like that. So if you have anything that was like 24.0.8, that's out of date. You're going to need the next one from the store. So I'll be calling out the different Vancouver updates as we go through this process. And I'm sure I'm going to miss some, but I'm going to show the ones that are immediately obvious. And I'm going to go into the designer first. All the same so far as I'm aware. And I'm going to create a brand new process. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it a hardware triage. Hardware incident triage. So we're going to be tagging this off the back of a creation of an incident. And now we need to kind of define when this process flow is kicked off, a bit like our flow designer. So this does work off the back of a flow. There's going to be a flow in the background which runs this process in essence. Why they have to have so many different designers to come up with these things, I do not know. But never mind. Define your own conditions or choose an existing trigger. I don't think I've got any existing triggers. I'm going to choose a new one then. So in which case, what we've got here is either create or update or both. So I'm going to say record create. Why do I have to go to a new screen to check the table? That could have all been the same one, couldn't it? Table. Incident. Condition. I'm going to say where the category is hardware. Trigger this on extended tables. Don't need to do that for now. Right, go to designer. And this is where you're going to see some brand new UI capabilities. Now, the first time you see this, it's going to come up with a little box to kind of tell you about the new updates and things, which is obviously going to be useful. And actually what it did for me as well is it came up saying about you need to kind of click on update to bring in this diagram view. It only took about 5 seconds, and then it kind of came up. But you can see already this is completely different. This has gone straight into the diagram view. But we do have a toggle at the top between diagram and board. Now board, this is probably what you're used to in terms of viewing kind of Kanban style. And I guess this is the first kind of change in Vancouver or addition that allows us to kind of build it from a more graphical format. Now my first instinct in here was, let's just drag end to the end so I can build it. I'm almost treating this like workflow editor. So for those who are, still championing workflow editor, this will be a nice, maybe a nice UI experience for you. Or frustrating if you can't do what you're expecting. So you can start to build out what's called stages. Now, previously these were called lanes. Lanes because of the kind of Kanban view and the board. Doesn't really make sense if you're doing that in the diagram view, I guess. And obviously the likes of stages is something that we've seen a lot more updates on within within Flow Designer as well. So yes. So what do we want to do? I'm going to create it in diagram view. I'm going to create this process in diagram view. I'm going to try a few different things out. I'm going to show you some different activities that we are going to configure as part of this process. I'm not going to show you all of them. I'm just going to show you some really basic ones. You can look into all the other types of activities. You can trigger things like subflows off the back of here as well. You can do lots in terms of customization around these and the different types of activities as well, which is good. Like I say, I've not seen too many use cases for this so far. I've only seen this work really well for the likes of triage and to follow complex like request processes as well. That's pretty good. So anyway, stop blabbering on. Let's create some stages. So this was weird. When you click on the kind of plus in the middle, you just get this little dotted box, which creates your first stage. So what I'm going to do first in this process is I'm just going to validate user email. So this is just demonstrates one of the different activity types that we have available to us to be able to pick from certain fields on a form that we want to validate as part of our triage process. Typically that sort of thing, isn't it? When you get calls from a call center or you call them up, they verify your name, your email address, your contact details, in case you accidentally hang up. But yes, so I'm going to have a first stage for validating user email. I can provide a description here. Check email is good. Sometimes the description is something that you will see on the playbook itself. Certainly for some of the activities, you will see that as well. What was I say? User contact details is good, right? And then we're coming into another difference here. Got the guns out, right? Coming to another difference in Vancouver is you can see here the start rule. So you'll see these in activities as well. So you can trigger things when the actual process starts or after specific stages. And then same with activities, you can say you can trigger activities when the process starts, i.e. the stage starts, or after specific activities within the stage. So I'm going to just keep this very simple at the moment. We will see some advanced conditions on these as well, which is very good. And we're going to configure our first activity for this stage. So you've got a different kind of box there, a nice lined box this time. I'm not too sure about those. Come on. Why aren't you loading? There we go. That was a bit weird, wasn't it? So yes, here's our activities. So there's some kind of default or common ones that you can choose from, such as creating tasks, giving instructions. So that could be, go and check this, or go and do that first, which they can almost kind of like click through as like some kind of checklist. Placeholder, I'm not sure what the reason for that is. It says it's to do with just a temporary placeholder when an activity doesn't exist. I don't know why we'd need that. User form, we're going to be using that now. And there's some other ones, like interactive ones, where you can kind of collect data, create records, create tasks, etc. This one, I'm just going to bring up the user form. And you see it's automatically gone to the automation tab in here. We can go back in here and add some descriptions as well. Validate email perhaps. And this is what I meant down the bottom here as well, start rule. So this is going to start automatically. Obviously we can have multiple activities in here, so we can specify if it's going to start after specific activities. But the automation is exactly where we're going to start pulling in our kind of reference data. Now, I want you to bear in mind if this is good for a process owner, and add something into the comments. Let me know what you think. So first of all, they'll need to know table information. And I don't know why this wasn't populated automatically, because this is to do with validating user emails, or validating or user form activity. So why wouldn't it automatically know it's a user table? Maybe it's catering for customization and stuff. Now we could obviously select one particular record. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the data pills. And again, we're going to now use this to find our incident record and the field we want to use. So I'm going to say caller. So that means it's going to dynamically choose that we want to bring back the record for the caller. I don't know why it's saying assignment group and assign to in here. There's that really confuses me about what they're used for. Is it going to suddenly assign it based on this user form? Really strange, that for me. But anyway, form fields and display fields. So I haven't quite cracked this in terms of what they're for. So form fields, I believe, are the things that you want to change. So I will say email. In fact, let me just put name in there as well. So I'm going to say name and email, because what I don't want to do is just an email to appear without knowing who it is. Obviously it's going to appear in the top half of the form, so maybe that really doesn't matter. And a footer, which is just a text. Hi, I'm a footer. Useful. Then there's other questionable things here. You got show attachments. Okay, maybe there's attachments on the user form record, or this table that we're querying here. Show SLA. Show checklists. Okay, checklists could be interesting if there's a checklist for that user. I don't know. It seems a little bit bonkers to me. UI layout. This is again more things that maybe will appear on the playbook as well. A lot of this stuff is what is being passed to Flow Designer, I believe, or what's coming through into the playbooks. I don't know. It's overcomplicating it in my mind. So we have validate user email. Now I'm going to pick up the pace a little here. I want to add 2 new stages. So let's do that. This new stage is going to be network CI triage. And now what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to add a condition. So you can see there I went to show additional options. You can choose obviously what it starts after, which is that kind of diagrammy thingy there, the arrow diagram. I'm going to add a condition in here to say configuration item. So you can search in this, by the way. Oh, brilliant. You can't search on that, by the way. So incident. Incident. Now I'll be able to search. Configuration item. I didn't even mean to do that. Configuration item class. I'm going to choose class. Please let me search now. Thank you. Class contains Netgear. Now, obviously, a lot of these kind of advanced conditions are things that perhaps your process owners are not going to know, or citizen developers even, because they could come into this area through App Engine Studio 2. So I'm going to save and close that. So that's going to be conditional. I'm going to add another one in here. So this is interesting, isn't it? Look, you can add a parallel branch, or you can add another stage to put your activities in. So what I did was, what was interesting, is I kind of added a stage here, and I'm just going to do that. Oh, so that's going to just add in between, which is not useful. But let's see what happens when we do parallel. There we go. So we're going to have these two. So it's going to be either of these two. It's going to get triggered, basically. So we're going to say server CI triage. Right. As I say, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. We've seen this already. So incident configuration item. I'm going to search because that list is huge. Class contains server. Save and close. Always go to save and close, by the way, because the minute you try and work on something else on the form here, it's going to moan that you need to save and close first. Right, so network triage. If it's that, I'm just going to give it an instruction. So the instruction is literally just a description box. So you could say, please check the lights are still blinking. As you can see in the automation tab, there's nothing to do in here. Everything's filled out. It's picked up the message from the description itself. So there's not too much we need to do on there. That's the instruction activity type. And then on this one, I'm going to go something different again. I'm going to say show knowledge base article. And this time we do need to enter the automation tab. And I'm just going to choose an article at random. So there we go. So we have our kind of graphical interface here where we've created these kind of steps. What do you think of it? It does, auto kind of resize for us. Those more complex processes, I'm sure this will go down, we'll zoom out quite a bit. So it's interesting, isn't it? Board view, the other thing to just note as well, in diagram view, you can see that optional activities is disabled, whereas in board view, it's not. So something to bear in mind. But you can see what it'll look like from a board view. It's not immediately obvious. I mean, obviously it's got here, says it starts after one. But when you're looking at this like this, it's not immediately obvious that they are working in kind of parallel, or it's, got some kind of condition against it. So maybe, this is a really good kind of interface to kind of work from. Maybe it's better. So now we have our process. What we're going to do is we're just going to test it out. So if we go into the agent workspace, and into incidents, new. And after I show you this, there's one more Vancouver feature to show you. So I'm just going to choose Aaron Price. Remember that we have to set the category to hardware. Something easily that can be forgotten. I'll go to save. Then what we should have is, this does make me laugh, saying predicted hardware for category. I told you it was hardware for category, never mind. We do have a playbook tab. Now obviously that playbook tab's not going to appear if it's not going to work with the trigger that you've already configured. So let's see what we got. Oh, and immediately I can see that this is not working properly because we do not have the ability to view the email address. So let's go back into our user form and see what I've done wrong. I think it's just a case of that. It needs it in a comma separated list. If it is just that, that's annoying, isn't it? Let's see. I'm happy to show you when things don't go quite so well. That's absolutely fine. Let's see if it works now. Hardware. Oh, one thing I didn't do as well. I didn't put the server in, did I? The CI. Remember that we got that as a a condition. Save. Can we now see email address? Or is it a problem? We can! Yay! How easy is that to get wrong though? And by the way, there was no kind of selector to say what fields you want to pick from. You had to type them in. It's a comma separated list. Make sure there's no spaces, basically. Clearly it's a work in progress, isn't it? But yes, you can see our stages in here, and the fact that we don't have the network CI triage in here because of the conditions, so that's worked quite nicely. Now obviously you can configure these so that they just all show at once in terms of showing you all the steps, so it doesn't hide what you have to do in server triage. So you can see here the activity will only become available once the previous activities. There was a checkbox in the activity to say if you wanted to wait for the previous one. But yes, the person has an opportunity now to change any details or confirm that details. Here's a lovely footer. Isn't that lovely? I'm going to say mark as complete, which should now bring us to the next level, which is showing an article. And I think we kind of get the message at this point. I mean, you can see how useful that is in terms of showing steps of, the steps to take to try and fix things. Maybe it works as a kind of high-level process. I don't know how in-depth you can get with these sorts of things. It reminds me of Virtual Agent and the different paths that you can go down for Virtual Agent when you're asking certain questions, so you can get into the right kind of triage, into the right sort of area. I guess I need to see more use cases with this. Again, those watching this, please do enter some information into the comments where you've seen this work before. It's quite a rare thing in my experience, this being implemented. So I'd love to hear those use cases. But yes, the last thing I wanted to show you is if I just go to test and just test this against a random incident and then go into the execution details. So there was a thing in the past where if you wanted to cancel the playbook on the workspace, you couldn't do that. You'd have to run some kind of script to kind of get rid of these process executions that are just kind of sitting there waiting for things and taking up probably CPU and all sorts of performance. Now we do have the ability to cancel the process through the process executions. I'm sure there may well be a module on the left hand side as well. So if I just say just because, this will then appear on the workspace afterwards as well, so it gives that kind of reasoning why that had been cancelled. So that's it really. That was the lovely Process Automation Designer pad. I'm still not going to call it pad. Sorry, Lauren. So there were some interesting updates, wasn't there? The main things being, yes, it's moved to the store, so hopefully there's going to be more updates in there. Do I think it's ready for process owners? Probably not quite, to be honest. It's getting there, though. What else? So, yes, it's accessible from the App Engine Studio. You've seen that in a previous video. Click up here, there. I don't know where. I'll put a link up to it somewhere where I've shown you all the different App Engine Studio features in Vancouver. One thing I didn't show you was Playbooks is now available on the mobile app, which is good. What else? Yep, I mentioned about the cancelling as well, and I don't think there was too much else other than, lanes are now called stages. There's a diagram view, which I think should be one of the highlights in here. I don't know why Lauren didn't include that in her blog, but yes, if you enjoyed this, please give this video a like as well. Give Process Automation Designer a go. Obviously you can't do it in your PDI, unfortunately. If you have got one of the other instances, like a non-prod instance, that you can give this a go, or if you've got some fantastic use cases for it, absolutely please share. But for now, that's all. See you in the next one.